Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Ballers of the Week. We've got myself, Will Joestar, and P Dubs. We are obviously missing one member. Dilly is off in India. He's going to be there for a while now. So he's going to be there for a good month. So it's going to be leading into Christmas. He's a lucky guy, but he's left the podcast in capable hands. We're going to be holding it down on this end. I'm doing well. There's a lot to sort of get through, some interesting debates all round across the league, and some interesting games as well. So we're starting to reach beyond, we've gone well beyond the halfway point now. So we're heading into that final stretch. But yeah, no, can't wait to get into it. Pete, man, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. So like you said, we're in week 11,
Yep. Anything in particular
end of
you're
the
sort of looking
season.
forward to? Yep.
And then we're coming up to at least we leading up to which teams are gonna be picking at the top of the draft. So it's time to sort itself out, and also which teams are juggling for the last playoff positions, or which teams are trying to get the top seeds and stuff. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah, so we're just gonna sort of go straight into it with regards to like a lot of the news happening in the league. So before we sort of get into sort of looking at like the injuries and whatnot, you know, there was an interesting statement from Tom Brady. Some would look at him as like the GOAT QB. And he said that, he's saying that there's a deterioration in the play, there's a deterioration in the standard of football. Like it seems as though it's becoming a mediocrity as opposed to, people always trying to be the best player that they can be within the environment. Everyone seems to be settling for a lot less. So I think this hits a lot more because of who it comes from. You know, and I'm not gonna lie, I do agree with some of the things he's saying, but at the same time, it's kind of like it's weird how he's saying this on the other end, and I think you'll sort of back that up as well, Pete. Because
Mhm.
there's a lot of things he benefited from while he was in the game. You know, um, so yeah, man, what are your thoughts on that?
See, my thoughts on this is fine and simple, as I put in our group in our WhatsApp group earlier. My thought is this. Um, why didn't you say this when you was playing the game? Why'd you wait till you retired before you say it? Because when they changed the rule for you back in 2007 or 2000, when you tore your ACL in 2007 after that tackle by that defensive end from the Steelers, and then in 2000 in the off season they changed the rules, and then you came back through 50 touchdowns. Why didn't you say no? Don't change the rules. The rules are fine. I'll find a way to adjust to it. And part of it is also the owners. They want it to be more offensive. They want offense to dominate the game, offense to score points, and it's all part of this whole safety aspect of it. That's why the game has changed and is really affecting the defensive level of the league. Some of the things he said, I did agree with it, like the coaching, practicing fundamentals. But it all comes down to a combination of things too. Because when the
Mm.
players CBA, they argued for less practice time. Well, if there's less practice time, they're not going to practice the fundamentals as they should do.
Yeah, I
So,
think it's
part of it is on the players, and but majority of it is on the league. And if the league wants it to go back to being the NFL that we know and love it to be, they might have to get rid of some of these rules that they put in place as well. But for me, it's the truth that Tom Brady was saying it, but it's coming from like the wrong person to say it, since he benefits so much of his statistical output was after they changed the rules.
yeah.
Because before they changed the rules, yes, he won three Super Bowls, but he won them as game manager.
Mm.
After they changed the
You're
rules,
cold, man.
he won them as an elite quarterback. So, hey,
Yeah, yeah, no, that's cold. I mean, I hear you on that. I hear you on that, Pete, and I think
let's hear your take.
for for me personally, I kind of agree. Like especially like towards the tail end of his career. Usually, as you get older, your stats shouldn't be going leaps and bounds a lot better than you were when you were 26 years of age, 27 years of age. But his numbers has kept on going up because certain rules were in place that kept the QBs upright. I don't want the game to turn into too much of a finesse game because if you're gonna do that, then you're removing what makes football for football. At that point, hockey is more violent now. you know, like ice hockey can be just as violent. But the whole point of the game is that it's about imposing your will on someone who doesn't want that to happen. You know, Jeff Saturday brought up a really good point. I think I was watching his view on this, and he talked about how it's actually being coached completely differently. You know, whereas before, you know, and this will lead on to like my other point on drop tackles, which sort of stems off this argument. But he was saying before, as a wide receiver, you would get coached on how to go across the middle. You'd get coached on how to protect yourself when you're running these routes. That's not done anymore because defensive coordinators, defensive coaches figure it's not worth coaching because it's illegal. If it happens,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be a flag and we're going to move up the field. I wish a defender would do that because then we're going to get 50 yards, we're going to get 40 yards and an ejection potentially of their starting player in that position. So the players don't necessarily understand how to protect themselves, you know, and sort of piggybacking off that, like if we look at what's been happening with the drop tackling, which we've seen before, you know, and here's the thing, drop tackling is a consequence of that rule change. You know, you can't light someone up anymore, so you've got to find a way to bring them down, you know? Whereas before, it would be like launch yourself like a missile, aiming at the body, not head to head. You can't even do that anymore, you know? So now it's a case of I've got to bring this guy down and let's not let. This is the thing. Sometimes I think as though the people making these rules don't understand the strength and conditioning of some of these players. They think it's only linebackers and defensive linemen that lift weights. All right. But
Sadly, because
these offensive players are strong. There are running backs that have a linebacker on each side of that barbell, a fully grown, big body linebacker on each side, and they can do that for
listen,
reps. What do you think they're going to do to a
Ro-
safety? They're going to drag him.
exactly. I mean, Rondo Moore, the wide receiver for the Cardinals, is 5'7", 180 pounds.
Mm,
But that dude, 180 pounds, can squat 500 pounds.
that's crazy.
Okay.
Yeah,
So his squats level is crazy.
yeah. So
So and when there was a play earlier in the season where he blocked the safety. The safety was surprised at how well this little guy blocked him off the line of scrimmage.
mm,
It was actually a defensive end that he pancaked. And I'm like, these offensive players are strong too. So I agree with your point, Will. Like, they need to understand. I'm drop tackling the tight end because that's the only way I can get him down. He's bigger than me,
Mark Andrews
you know.
huge. How do you bring him down
So
if
I
you're
got, and as a safety, I got. See, I feel sorry for sometimes for the safeties in this league because safeties are like 5'10", 6 feet. Like Buda Baker's
210,
5'11", 202
215?
pounds.
Yeah,
If he has to go and tackle Mark Andrews is
two
taller and weighs
forty.
more than Buda.
Yeah,
So the only way you can bring him down is to do this drop tackle.
yep,
I just hope they don't bring it into the league because it's about time, and I agree, it's about time that they need to start looking at the rules and having it being a fair game. Because at the moment, we all know the rules favor the offenses in the league right now. So
mm,
right now, no, right now you can't find great defensive plays or great defensive players. All great defensive players right now, even pass rushers or sack artists are having to modify the way they side. I mean, the hits needs to be back in the game, it's one of the ones where it's controversial
yeah,
because if we allow the hits back in the game, the whole safety thing and the whole concussion issue raises its head again. But then again, there are ways to get around that
yeah,
without having the game favor offense. That's my take on that. They
yeah,
need to find a way to to allow defensive players to play there. Otherwise, then just say um otherwise the talent of defensive players are gonna reduce in future years because every kid will now want to play offense.
yep. Every kid's gonna want to play offense. Corners are less physical now. Everyone wants cover corners because you can't manhandle someone anymore. So it's kind of interesting. Like if we go back to the Legion of Boom, we had the 6 foot tall, big body corners. Now people are moving away from that, being like that physicality. Brandon Browner, those guys, it's not gonna work anymore because you can't manhandle receivers, let alone hit them
Exactly.
hard
So
enough.
so now they're
So
moving to whereby you gotta be fast and have hip fluidity and
yep,
have instant reactions. Because if you don't have that, you can't play corner.
you can't
So
play.
if you're a
Yep.
physical corner, then I'm also gonna be a running back, isn't it?
Exactly. So it's just one of those things. And here's my argument to like drop tackling. It's very simple. All right. It's called high knees. That's all it is. it's called high knees, and this is something that's coached through youth. It's coached everywhere. You have to drive your knees up because a lot of the time people are rolling their ankles because when you're being dragged by a player, and you're not offensive player, you're not thinking you're keeping your knees underneath your waist. So then what happens is they get
Mhm.
rolled under, all right? But if you start to high knee, get knee lift, body lean, what's going to happen is your legs are not going to be on the ground long enough to get rolled under. So this is a coaching point. But if they make it illegal, they're not even going to coach this. So, you know, it's only going to be a detriment. I hope the league does not stop drop tackling because at this point, what's the defender going to do? He's basically going to be like, all right, I'm just going to wrap both your legs now, and I'm not going to even tackle you up high because that's the only way I can bring you down.
You see, and the funny thing is that offensive players wants to be tackled up high
Yep,
because the injuries that they fear the most is
lower
if you
body,
wrap them around their feet, getting broken ankle, rolled over ankle, or
rotator cuff,
Achilles tendons,
PCL, ACL,
all that kind of stuff.
PCL.
They
Yep,
don't like it. They
yep.
prefer to be tackled up high, not at the bottom. And a lot of even Shannon Sharp said, "I prefer you tackle me up high because if you tackle me down,
Down below. Oh, hold on. I think we're
this injury for footballers come back from is the leg injury and obviously concussion. But
yep. Yeah, no, that's
that's the
true.
thing.
That's true. I think a lot of people would prefer to be hit up high up top rather than anywhere else because like I said, I can see that coming. You know, I take my body, keep my legs. If these legs are injured, it's hard for me to play. Football's always played from the ground up. All right, so moving along. Some more news in particular. You know, Darius Leonard. I think today this happened. In that he has been uh released essentially from the Indianapolis Colts. You know, he's hit the waiver wire. You know, he's a very good linebacker. You know, I think I off the podcast we spoke to Dilly just to get his feedback, and he's assuming he couldn't make much sense of it either, but he's assuming that perhaps they saw a dip in his overall play, his athleticism after the injuries not the same, and that was what made him so good, so explosive. So they're obviously deciding. I think they're looking to sort of cut bait and trim down this roster a little bit, you know, because if they want to keep him, then they're gonna have to pay him. But having just got their new QB, it's almost like a soft reset for this team. So they're looking to sort of trim the fat where they can. And as we already know, the linebacker position isn't really as valued as it was back in the day. Like now, linebackers are almost like running backs, where all you need is a guy that could tackle, run to the ball, and be physical. As long as you've got that, then you've got a serviceable team. They would much rather spend that money on the defensive line or the secondary. So it's just one of those things where the NFL is sort of going in a specific direction, and then we're stuck with the ramifications of that. So, what are your thoughts on that, Pete? Like, I know a lot of teams are going to be interested in trying to pick him up.
Absolutely. I mean, but I think a lot of teams are because he's a talent linebacker, right? But I think
Mm,
from Dilo, what Dilo was saying is that the coach feel like he's lost his athleticism and he lost playing time this season. It's almost like I think his performances hasn't been the elite levels that it used to be. So the Colts are thinking, let's do you a solid. You've been one of our good contributors. You're part of the rebuild that took place um, with the Quentin Nelson draft class. So let's have a way of releasing you so you can pick what team you want to go to instead of holding on to you and trading you. I wonder how much truth there is because listen, there's the NFL never say never. Players have rebounded back. Players have played in certain teams where the scheme is specific for them. I mean, when I check PFF, um, since 2021, the last two seasons hasn't been great.
mm,
20 last year he was injured, he didn't play a lot of snaps, so his grade is not considered. This year he also hasn't played a lot of snaps. His last good season, that was before his injury, was 2021, where you know, he had a 79.0 PFF grade, which is very good, which is very solid. So the way I see it, um, other teams will pick him up. He's a hot target. But when they release him, his contract rolls over to whichever team picked him off of waivers, because the report coming from Schefter and Ian Rappaport was that there will be a 6 million cap hit, and teams are not willing to pay 6 million for a linebacker that they're gonna pick you up just for this next season. It's only a team that is like a contending team and they have
Yep.
a place for a linebacker that they can add to help them try and make some plays and get to the Super Bowl, add him. But if not,
Hmm.
teams might wait for him to clear waivers, and then he gets his own choice of which team he wants to go next. But I think that would be the best move for him, to wait and hope that nobody claim him off waivers. And that 6 million price tag means he most likely is gonna have to wait it out this week, and a team picks him up next week.
Yep.
That was one of the teams, but I don't think, because Jonathan Gannon was on the Colts staff 3 seasons ago when he was first drafted. But I don't think our head coach, our GM Monty Asenford, will put a claim for 6 million right now. If he clears waivers, we might reach out to him and try and sign him. But I think a contender should be the team that go after him. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah, I
I
mean,
look,
we've had Nakobe Dean is kind of taken a bit of a knock this season, so he's out, and I know we're looking for depth, but this is one of those things
so
where
Philly could sign him, but I think it
Philly
makes sense
could, but it would be
for him
like a
to clear
1 year.
waivers first.
Yeah, yeah. So that's most likely going to go through, and then a team will pick him up. But yeah, no, it's just not often that this happens where you
Mm,
get a player that's very serviceable that becomes available. So yeah, I
yep.
mean, I'm hope he lands on his feet, and I'm sure he'll be strong for whichever team picks him up. All right, so moving on. So the Pats, they have not named a QB for Week 12. Are we starting to see the end of the empire? I mean, a lot of people are saying that. I mean, it's been ended anyway, but are we starting to see like some kind of like uncertainty here? Because obviously they drafted Mac Jones, and you can't tell me there's that much of a difference between him and the next guy. You know what I mean? Like Zappy. So at this point, it's just a case of, you know, I personally think Mac most likely doesn't want to be in the organization after this season. But and they haven't really got a lot of options. What's your thoughts on this? Like it seems a bit dysfunctional. But Bill Belichick always has a plan, right? But as of recently, we haven't been really seeing the fruition of that. So, what are your thoughts on this, Pete?
Because I think the Patriots are in an interesting position right now, which is, do you? I mean, obviously they're not winning a lot of games, so if they finish with a top three pick, who do they take come the draft, or do they trade down, as they notoriously have done in the past? But a QB is a huge need for the Patriots, because Mike Jones, quite frankly, hasn't been able to get it done. I think we all thought with Bill O'Brien coming over in the summer, it might revitalize him a little bit, but he hasn't played well at all. I think Matt, Matt Patricia did permanent damage, so it cannot be reversed right now.
Yep.
Um, and which means it means it takes several seasons for that to be repaired, with him as a backup to be able to get how good he plays back. Um,
And I don't think they've
it's
got
kind
that
of
time.
like get guys, and they don't have that time.
Yep.
So I think most likely they'll be looking at maybe drafting a callback this upcoming draft. But at the moment, I think Bill is putting a competition out there between Matt Jones and Will Greer, and come Friday they'll decide who is the better quarterback. And I don't really like when NFL coaches say this. When the coaches speak of, "Oh, we're gonna go with the guy that gives us the best chance to win," it's BS. Sometimes you go with the guy that's gonna help you tank.
Yep.
That's what it might come down
The
to
best guy to
with
win.
the Patriots.
Yeah, but here's the thing with the Pats. Like, even if they do tank, are they in the right position to sort of lead the next generation, lead the future? Defensively, I think they can work through what they need to work through. They just need some more talent there. Offensively, though, they've been a mess the last few years. Mac Jones had a really good rookie season, as far as rookie QQBs are concerned, but ever since
Mm.
then, it's sort of been downhill. So I think offensively, they need to sort of get back on track, and then they can be serviceable in that division. But if you look at who's around you now, once Aaron Rodgers is back, the Jets are a force to be reckoned with, 100%. Buffalo Bills are always up there in the mix, despite the woes they've had recently. They can still compete and play. So this isn't like, as you said back in the day, this isn't Tom Brady's era for his division, where the next best guy was who? Mark Sanchez?
Mhm.
All those seasons he played, Mark Sanchez was the best quarterback out of that lot for the whole every other team except the Patriots. So he had a guaranteed playoff spot every season. Obviously, that's not the case now. So they're gonna have to work a lot harder. And I think we're starting to see the end. And like I think a lot of people have said, Bill Belichick just needs to either remove himself from the GM role and just stick to coaching, or better,
Hmm.
or potentially like if because this is gonna keep hurting your legacy. You know, the more if you put out two more seasons like this, everyone is. I mean, everyone is already asking that question, but they're definitely gonna be like, hey, look, we're starting to see. We saw you before TB12, and we're seeing you after. Like, let people remember the good things. Like, you have nothing more to prove. Walk away. You know, hand over the torch. Become an advisor. You can still coach. You know, you can still coach. You can still be in that organization. Sort of, sort of whispering over people's ears, being like an advisor, consultant, but stop hurting your legacy. You know what I mean? But
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean they could go back and bring Josh McDaniels back to be the head coach and kick Bill upstairs to be the
nah, Josh is
GM.
done, man. Josh ain't coming back. Like Josh was
Hey,
basically
hey, don't be
they gave
surprised.
him a tree branch, and he was like, "No, no, I'm good. I don't want to wait. I'm going to the Raiders." He went to the Raiders. They've already seen him as a head coach in two different organizations. The only other place it could work is the
Okay,
Pats.
hey,
That's the
I
only place it will work, right?
okay, but here's the thing: third time's the charm. Third time lucky.
Nah, nah, this can't
Maybe
happen.
his way works in New England only. Maybe it's the only
It's
place
the only place
that
it
the
will
way he
work.
wants to run the
But
team
here's the thing: no one
will
like
work because the culture is there.
even Robert Kraft is like, "Look, man, I can't hire you after what you've done to Denver and the Raiders. How do you think that's going to look if I give you this job over everyone else that's available?
I don't care about that.
I'm gonna interview you and I'm gonna give you this role. I think Robert Kraft is the kind of guy to sort of think this through because he's a very like down to earth guy and he understands the temperature in the room. He's not like these other billionaires that like I'll do what I want. You know, he's more like I understand what this team represents. I understand what the league represents. I don't want to sort of rush into this. You know, you've had your
Hmm.
opportunity. You can come back as an OC, but like if you know how it is with billionaires, man. If they hand out an olive branch and a hand, and you're like, "Nah, I'm good," they'll be like, "Okay, cool. That hand's not going to be there next time." You know. So I think he's not going to come. I mean, he can come back as an OC, but he's not going to be the head coach of the Patriots, in my opinion. My opinion. All right.
Okay, we'll see.
We're gonna move on. Just two more things really. Jets benching Zach Wilson. What are your thoughts on this? Long overdue.
I won't say long overdue. I think they gave him as many chances as they can,
Yeah,
but Zach just couldn't get it done. I think this is the one of the rare ones. Just don't gloat. I'll give you your flowers on this. I think you called it from the moment he was drafted, and I think
pro day. I was
I
calling
saw,
it since the pro day.
yeah, yeah, you did. So we gotta give you your flowers. You got this one correct. You called it. You said it was like a flash in the pan, and I think people that did their research maybe they just should have listened to you because you called it. You said his college career he didn't have an explosive season until that junior year, and it's like how'd you go from 11 touchdowns, 9 INTs in your second year of college to 33-3? That's like a huge like
That's a massive.
boon,
That's a massive jump. Yeah, I
you
think.
know.
I
So
think.
it could have been like an anomaly season maybe that he had. It's like because the talent is there, he's got the arm, but the issue here is I don't know. I just don't understand how he cannot get it done. And I think at this point, if he stays in the league, he's gonna be just another Josh Rosen backup situation, that type of thing for Zach Wilson. Because when you look at it, I'm looking at his numbers across 3 seasons. He's never completed more than 60% of his passes
It's not good
in,
enough.
in
Not
the
for New
NFL.
York. Not for New York.
You
Definitely
know,
not for New York. Yeah.
you get what I'm saying? Not even anywhere.
Anyway,
Because
yeah.
as a rookie or young quarterback, your first 3 seasons, if you can't complete 60% of your passes, then I know I can't like take you
You're
anywhere
not
kind
competing
of
for a
thing.
championship. You're not.
You know, like
Yeah.
not even a championship. Like it means that you can't be the franchise quarterback
Yeah.
because normally, okay, your rookie year is kind of like we understand that some rookies will struggle, By your second and third year, we expect a huge major improvement. And they're just not getting that right now. And I think Tim Boyle gives them a better chance to win. Unfortunately, Aaron Rodgers got injured at the beginning of the season, but you call it. I think I'm officially ready to call it. Zach Wilson is a bust.
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, when I called it back, like teams, especially around like the draft period, there's always going to be those organizations that are going to look for another guy. Because there's your first QB, your second QB, and then everyone else falls in afterwards, right? But they'll always try
Mm-hmm.
and project and uplift someone, and I think Zach Wilson was the product of that. That's not his fault. They drafted him high. He got over evaluated. He, like I said, he has the arm, he has some movement skills, but he just can't put it together. And this isn't the end of his career. You know, Geno Smith finally started understanding the NFL level, and it took him what 8 seasons, all right, 8 years in the league before it finally started to click. He got that opportunity, and we're seeing what he can do now. This might be the same for Zach Wilson. I think he needs a fresh start. And like I said, the Jets swung and missed here. This is the best thing for the team, because you're only gonna run the risk of potentially hurting him, and then even if you want to move off him and trade him, you can't. It's harder to trade an injured player. So I think part of this is just trying to keep him injury free, so that he's a healthy asset which can be moved. You know, because if you don't pass that medical and you want to get moved to another team, they're gonna be like, we're not gonna trade for him because he's hurt. You know what I mean? So I think that's there. I wish him all the best, but I think Aaron Rodgers is the only thing that can save the Jets season. That defense has played week in and week out. They've held it down. They've done their best, and it's exhausting. They can't do it anymore, and that's gonna sort of break up the locker room. You know, so I think this is long
Mm-hmm.
overdue. You know, because other players know, like other players didn't go top two, top 10, but they're playing better than this guy. And they're just looking at
Mm-hmm.
Zach being like, how the hell did this guy get drafted ahead of everyone else? He's not good enough. You know, other players know the reality. So that's also going to cause conflict in the locker room. You know, if you see someone that was drafted ahead of you, that's considerably not as good as anyone on your team, then you're basically thinking, what's up with the organization? You start questioning the organization. You know, I think the reason why Zach was able to play for as long as he had was because certain people have attached their career to him. They made that call. The GM for the Jets is lucky that he swung and hit high on a lot of other picks on defense. Because if he didn't, he'd probably be out. He'd be out of that organization. He's hit really well with some of his draft picks. So that's helped sort of keep them afloat. I'm gonna round up the news section with some injury news. So yeah, no, just going through. We're gonna have a look at some of the things that have come up. Uh, let's see. So Chicago Bears, Deontay Foreman, their main running back right now. Um, with him basically out, I think the Bears season, taking into account their record, taking into account them actively trying to lose a game intentionally, I think their season's done. You know, yeah, Dante Foreman, former uh, Longhorn, came into the league, developed okay with the Houston Texans, and then moved on. And we finally started to see him show what he was potentially capable of. And obviously, he hurt his ankle now, so I think he's probably not going to be serviceable, which means they essentially lose their run game. Um, so yep, so we have that. Aaron Jones ruled out versus the Chargers, but that's down to a knee. I don't think he'll rush back because he knows the Packers aren't necessarily going anywhere, and he's such a focal point of that offense.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's always interesting because when a team is basically not going anywhere, players aren't in a rush to get back. Like we're seeing that with the Vikings as well. Justin Jefferson is basically saying, "Hey, um, yeah, no, I'm not looking to come back this year. You know, like my health is more important than your fantasy points." I think he was quoted as saying that, you know, because I think he understands where the team is and they're not really going to compete for anything long term. Just going through this as well. What else have we got? I think those are the main ones, you know. There was one in particular, obviously, Fa Obada, UK player. He's defensive end for the Washington Commanders, 31 years of age. He's actually had a above average NFL career. You know, he's basically played for just under a decade now, if not nearing that. You know, so he's actually had a very good NFL career. He was I believe ruled out against the Giants. He was carted off the field with a cast on his right leg. So that's not good, especially an injury to your lower body. You know, football's always played from the waist down. But yeah, no, it's going to be hard. I think we were talking about this pre-show as well. He sort of being a Brit and someone who came to the game late, he's got to work a little bit harder to make these rosters and stay. You know, the fact that he's been in the league for so long speaks a lot to like his skill and ability level. But I wish him all the best. You know, I hope he has a speedy recovery and continues his NFL career. You know, so yeah, man, FA by all means get better soon and hopefully
Mm-hmm.
see you back in the league and upright. You know, so yeah, cool. All right. So now we're gonna be heading into the games. So if we look through now, we're gonna go through like a lot of the noticeable games and performances throughout the week. One I want to start off with right off the bat. Um, I don't know. Do you want to start with like a blowout, Pete, or do you want to go with more other games?
Let's talk about the more important games that happened this past weekend.
Yeah.
Starting off with your Eagles and the Chiefs in that game. And I
Okay.
think um here's my take.
Yep.
Your Eagles was you guys was left off the hook, okay? Because if the Chiefs had competent wide receivers,
Yep.
right, they would have won this game. You do realize that. The Chiefs receivers just couldn't catch anything. They kept dropping passes left, right, and center. Marquez Valdez Scantling, God bless his son, bless Patrick Mahomes for taking full accountability. I get that
That's
towing
what
the
a
company
quarterback does,
line.
man. That's what a quarterback
Like, yeah,
does.
I get that. Yes, I understand that. That's what they see as maturity. But but the thing is, here's the thing: when we go, when they review the film on Mondays or they're watching the tape back, you're gonna get ripped. Like, bro, that ball was in your hands. Like he dropped it in the bucket. Like how Kyler's pass to open the game against Houston to Rondell Moore. He dropped it in the bucket and Rondell is the same thing. And you are even taller than Rondell Moore. So why are you gonna you're 6'5", bro. A five
Six
seven guy can
five,
catch that
bro.
pass and you're 6'5" and you can't
Six
catch. You
five.
should be a DB. Like
Yeah.
like Papa couldn't have thrown the ball any better. And DeAndre Hopkins
It's a bit like
tweeted, he said, "Oh, that catch gonna hurt them big time." There's a reason why he tweeted that because he said they could have got DeAndre Hopkins. I don't think Hopkins would have asked for that much money if he was playing for a contender like the Chiefs.
yeah. But that yeah,
Hopkins catches that.
that was
So the
that
Chiefs,
was a miss. That was crazy. I couldn't believe it.
exactly. So I mean, the Chiefs played well, and I think this season that's what's going to hurt them. And I think everybody clearly knows the number one need is the wide receiver. And for for a team that has Super Bowl aspirations, it boggles me why they didn't go out there and get a receiver. I'm not saying you can't develop the receivers that you drafted in the mid rounds that's on your roster. You still can develop them, but receivers develop better when they have an alpha receiver to play with. Right now, the Chiefs don't have any alpha receivers, and
Mm.
now it's time to show that maybe they shouldn't have traded away Tyreek Hill.
Yep.
This game was a prime example because how the Chiefs would have loved to have one of your wide receivers.
Yep.
You've got two kind of like number one wide receivers in
Yep.
Devonta Smith and um, AJ.
Yeah,
The
you've got to
Chiefs would love
have
to have one of them. So
they need
to
another
me,
guy
that
there.
kind of was the difference in the ball game. And one thing I love about the game is it was a classic defensive game. The scoring wasn't high. Both defenses were playing very, very well. So I love that about that game. That game was a very good game, and the Chiefs probably would have won if they had better wide receivers. Not by a large margin, but they probably might have won it 28-21, 24-21. But credit to your Eagles. They played as well as they could possibly play, and Jalen Hurts played well without having the crazy stat. Because when you look at the passing numbers of both quarterbacks, it shows the defenses did their job in this game.
Yep. Yep. No, I think yeah, no, I'm not like hyping up this win at all because if Scantling catches that ball, the Chiefs win. You know,
Mm.
it's as simple as
Yep.
that. So we kind of got lucky there. I think this is one of those victories where we got out there with a win, but make no mistake, it's because the Chiefs made that error. Um, yeah, man, I don't see how you don't come down with that ball. Like it hit his hand, he had it, and it just popped out. You've got to make that catch. You're an NFL wide receiver, a starting wide receiver on an NFL team. You've got to make that catch, and I know that's going to be one of those catches that long after his career's ended, that's still gonna haunt him. Like he'll be an old man in his
Mm.
60s and he's gonna remember that play. He's like, damn, I couldn't catch that ball there. That could have been the game. So yeah, no. One thing I've realized about the Kansas City Chiefs this season is that a lot of people have been saying the way the team is built on offense right now, it's not enough. You need something else. You need an extra bit of juice. Travis Kelsey's all good, but they'll just double team him, they'll triple team him, they'll take him from the game. And now the tape is out there. Your guys can't beat guys. Your guys can't get, like, don't get me wrong, they can get open, but then you've then got to you're then sort of second guessing, can they catch this football? You know? So it's literally like this offseason, number one thing is they need to get an elite receiver, either through free agency and
That's
then
very
but
wrong.
then but then they also have to draft someone. So I this is one of the teams that because they've got that transcendent
They
QB,
don't
they
necessarily
could
have to get
they
it.
could they could literally say we're just gonna trade this and try and work our way up and maybe we take Pete. You know who I'm thinking. They'll mortgage away
Listen,
their future because they have a quarterback in place, so they don't need to worry about that. As long as you've got Pat
bro.
Mahomes, number
Okay, so
15, you can do
I know
things
what you're
like this. You can do
thinking, and
outlandish things
before,
like this. Trade away the
listen,
boat and
I
get that
know
guy
what you're
there.
thinking,
Yep.
and before you say anything,
Yeah.
if Arizona's sitting there at 3 or
Yeah.
2,
Yeah.
I believe Arizona will sit there in the top 5. We'll get a top 5 pick, but
Yep.
I'm not sure where in the top 5, because with Kyler, there's always a chance to win any of our remaining games.
Mm.
So it's a case of if we are sitting there at 3 and Marv is on the clock and Marv is available at 3, I don't care. I don't give an F how many first round picks you're giving me. Monty Awesome for better not trade that pick away, because otherwise he will not even make it home in Arizona.
Yep.
We want, if we are saying that 3 and Marv is there, we want Marv. I don't care how much money the Chiefs, how much draft picks they can give me 5 first round picks. I don't want it. I
Mm.
want Marv Harrison because we had a great one like Larry Fitzgerald, right?
Yep.
And with Marv, it doesn't mean we can still upgrade our offensive line because we've got 2 first round picks. I mean,
Yep.
we have the most picks in next year's draft, so we can still do a lot
You
of things.
you
So
can
that's
wheel and
why,
deal. Yeah.
for me, I would Marv on the Cardinals if we're saying that at 3. Now, if the Chiefs want to give me, you know, all them picks, you know, um, Creed Humphrey, maybe I might consider it because Creed Humphrey is one of the best centers in the league,
Mm.
and he played with Kyler, so I might consider that. But even then, I'll still say no. But this upcoming draft is the best time for the Chiefs. They're going into this offseason, in terms of addressing their needs perfectly, because the amount of receivers are, like, if you
So
watch
many.
college football, there's so many receivers that are coming up in this draft.
Yep.
They are good.
I can see
Like
them
there's like
taking quite a few. I can
there's
see
like
them drafting maybe
there
two,
could be
three
10
guys.
in the
Yep.
first round,
Yep.
and that's probably not enough. There's gonna be first round graded receivers that will fall into the second round because you can't take them all.
Yep. No, it's good. I mean,
So
the future's bright for them, but yeah, no, happy win for my Eagles. But yeah, no, it was a hard fought game. But yeah, so moving on. Okay. Um, Next game we're gonna look at. So we're gonna go from like a very interesting competitive game. And I actually want to go over this one. What even Lions versus the Bears. This was I'm going over it because this is an example from the Bears side of how to lose a game. All right,
competitively,
competitively lose a game. So try and make it look like you guys are fighting, but really
it's a
you're not.
professional way to tank.
This is a professional tank job because I'm looking at the Jared Goff's performance. All right, 2 touchdowns, yeah, 23 for 35, 236, 3 interceptions,
And you
three
guys still didn't win the
ints,
game. How?
and you guys didn't look.
How?
And you know what I mean? Like how was this game as close as it was going late? That means you didn't capitalize. You weren't calling the right plays, and especially towards the end of the game. Justin Fields is literally over there. Like, whereas before, we're seeing his body language change. And this is what we talked about pre-show. Like, before, he was like despondent, upset. Notice how now he's not even bothered. He's calm because he knows, like, yeah, this is done. Like, this team is finished. Like, there's no point. And I feel so sorry for this team because you've got guys like DJ Moore who came there looking for a fresh start. He actually had an okay game. He didn't go for over 100, but he got 96 yards. He got a TD. He's shown he belongs. He's shown that, you know what, I am a number one guy. I just need a guy throwing me the ball. But this team's going nowhere. I think Eberflus, I think, is definitely on the hot seat because the defense is not that great either. Usually, if you're a defensive head coach, your defense has to be up there. Like, it's got to be at least top 15, or else why are you not taking an offensive minded head coach to pair with your young athletic QB, right? So that's a whole different ball game. But at the same time, Luke Getsby, like, this guy is the next Matt Canada. Like, look what's happening with the Steelers. They went through 3 years of suffering on offense before they finally got rid of their guy. Don't be the Pittsburgh Steelers. Move on. He's an offensive coordinator. You can find guys, right? You can find good OCs working the way. It's one of those positions where you can bring guys in from the NFL, from positional groups in the NFL, or from the college ranks. There's options. It's replaceable. Move on. Luke Getsby's not the guy. You've squandered Justin Fields' rookie years. That window is 100% shut right now. So you might as well move on. Like the Lions, like I said, 3 interceptions and they found a way to win this game. You're not meant to come back from that, especially if you look at the scoreline. Like, you're not meant to come back from that. Like, it's just one of those games that, like, if anyone wants to see how to competitively tank, just like you said, Pete, just watch the Bears in this game. Shout out to the Lions. They find a way to win. Even they were kind of shocked. They walked out of it with a win. And it's like you get an award for the school project, but you didn't do any work. It's like, damn, we won the game. We threw 3 interceptions late. We still found a way to win. Hey.
Exactly. I mean, the Lions are objectively a better team than the Bears, but when you get 3 turnovers, you find a way to win a football game. Like saying that my Cardinals picked off CJ Stroud three times, shut him down in the second half, and we couldn't win the game. But that's a different story because my callback it's his second game back from injury, so that's a different scenario. But talking about the Bears, I think they could have won that game. And the fact that the way it ended as well, because the Lions tied it up, and then I think it was a fumble or something. The Bears just gave the ball right back to them for them to score. And I'm like, come on.
Who knows, man? Who knows? All right, so we're going to move on here. We've got a bit of a doozy game. Didn't quite end the way we expected because when you get games like this, you always want like a bit of a shootout. But we had the Ravens versus the Bengals. This was a cool game to watch. Obviously, the Ravens walked out there with a win, 34-20. But no, this was one of those games where you wanted to see both sides go at it. And we kind of got that, but obviously towards the tail end, Joe Burrow did go down.
Yes.
In a lot of cases, people didn't want to see this because, let's be real, like in that division, the Bengals are one of the few teams that can go toe to toe and has Kansas City's number, So if you're Kansas City right now, you're looking at it like, okay, cool, this guy's the main guy that can stump us. Now that he's pretty much out of the equation now, with regards to like his lower body injury. No, was it his hand? No, it was his elbow, right? I think it was his wrist. His wrist.
It was his wrist.
It was wrist. Yeah. This could be it. Like I like, barring a miracle, this is their season. So this is like they've had a lot of bad luck.
So here's the thing. It was a very interesting game. I think if Burrow played, it would have been more competitive. But I think after Burrow was knocked out with a wrist injury, the Ravens were ahead and they were gonna close down the books and win this game. Great performance from the Ravens. Get another W. Unfortunate for the Bengals that Joe Burrow had to go off injured and their backup quarterback wasn't gonna come in and win that game. But it goes to prove a point that I've been saying. if you draft a franchise quarterback like Joe Burrow and he comes in, but you don't show up your protection, that becomes an issue.
Mm,
Because I remember when the following year in the draft, the Bengals had, I think, the second overall pick,
hmm
or no, they had the fifth overall pick the following year, and the conversation was, do they take Penei Sewell, offensive tackle, or did they take Jamar Chase? Now they took Chase. They got to a Super AFC Championship game, got to a Super Bowl, and all was good with the world. But the long term move should have been to take Penei Sewell to give your quarterback much better protection in that regard. Now, someone could say the same thing like minutes ago when I was saying about my Cardinals.
Yep.
Oh, sorry, my camera.
It's all right. No
One
worries.
second.
Yeah, but yeah, protection's always key, always key. And I think you're right with what they said because Joe Burrow is a really good talent. So regardless of what would have happened, I think he would have been able to like work with
Am
T
I back in the
Higgins.
frame?
Yeah, he would have been able to work with T Higgins, with Tyler Boyd. Like he would have been able to get the most out of those guys. And they would
Exactly.
have
And
managed to find someone else.
and then the following subsequent seasons, they didn't go out and show up the offensive line. Now, granted, with the Bengals, they signed that left tackle from the Chief. One second.
Yep.
They signed.
What's his name?
Ooh, what's his name? Was something Brown or something? Uh, Orlando Brown Jr.,
Mm,
who was who was traded from the Ravens to the Chiefs to be Patrick Mahomes' left tackle. So they signed him in the offseason. Um, you know, and he was a great right tackle, but he wanted to be a left tackle because that's where the money is, and the whole thing about his dad wanting to play left tackle, and since he played left tackle, last year he was okay. This year he's been a bit average, so he hasn't been the best.
mm.
So it goes to show that the main point is to protect Joe Burrow a bit better, to avoid these injuries that keep happening. Because I watched the game and he tried to go and he couldn't. I mean, that was horrible. I mean, on the sideline when he tried to throw the football, you could
And
feel
the
the
pain,
pain,
the
the
pain. He
anguish,
was there like,
and
bro,
I'm
that
like,
ball didn't
oh,
even leave his hand. It literally just went, he arced over, and then the ball just left his fingertips and went to the ground. And he was there like, I'm in agony. Forget, you can tape this up, you can inject me with painkillers. Nah, this wrist
it's
is
not,
done.
it's
It's
it's not
out. It's
happening.
gone.
So I think they need to improve the offensive line going into the off season.
Hmm
That's one of the biggest points for the Bengals, but they'll be okay.
Yeah,
Once Joe Burrow comes back next season,
yeah,
and they'll be ready to go.
yeah. I mean, we're gonna keep things moving on with regards to the games. I think was Mark Andrews. Yeah, Mark Andrews was in this game and he went down as well. So this was another
Yep, the drop tackle thing.
drop tackle thing, and it's the same thing. It's unfortunate, but it's not malicious in any way. He's a big guy, and you've got to find a way to bring him down. And obviously it's the same. The drop tackles right now will always pretty much always lead to an ankle injury. But this is like another one of those teaching points because they're not teaching to protect. If you outlaw it, players can't learn to deal with drop tackles, like especially as an offense. High knees could potentially prevent that. I know because I've been drop tackled. I didn't gain any sort of long term ankle injury, but I did. I was in like I had like a lot of soft tissue damage on that right ankle. So it's agony. It's absolute agony, and it can go wrong, especially at that size. So wish him a speedy recovery. He's done for the year though. I don't think he'll be back, which is gonna hurt the Ravens. But they're kind of built to sort of be like a run first team, so I think they can keep things going. We're gonna move on to another team, and we're also gonna keep that sort of conversation going forward with regards to backup QBs and moving forward. Um, Dolphins versus the Raiders. This was a really good game. Everyone was expecting like a shootout, but once again, it was another one of those defensive games. The defenses both came to play. The Dolphins were, I think they weren't expecting this. You know, the Raiders defense definitely came to play and they were able to contain the Dolphins with their high flying offense to only 20 points. You know, that's definitely not your old school Raiders that we've seen in the past, especially with like the coaching staff that they've had. So this was really good to see. Like if we look at the numbers as well, let's look over here. So Tua, serviceable game, went for 325. He did have an interception. Tyreek went for 146. So even though you were able to contain this offense, it still wasn't enough to stop Tyreek Hill. And it's performances like this that show you that, you know, he might be the most dominant receiver right now in the league.
He is. And
right
for
now.
me, he's still leading the MVP race as of now.
Mm,
But eventually we know he's gonna go to quarterback anyway. The team with the best records quarterback's probably gonna get the MVP. But
yep.
also the numbers gonna be there and they might be. Um Pat Mahomes is still in within a shot, but in this game, I gotta give a special shout out to the Raiders since they got rid of Josh McDaniels. And Antonio Pierce took over. I think at the end of the season they should go ahead and not make the wrong decision and make Antonio Pierce the head coach and see how next year, because the
Yes.
players are responding to Antonio Pierce. The defense to hold Dolphins to 20 points was very, very impressive.
Mm,
And also the Dolphins defense also responded very well. Obviously, Raiders don't have a very good quarterback right now. So the Dolphins defense was going to be able to hold the Raiders a bit. But I was impressed with the Dolphins. There's no more victories in the NFL, but what I was impressed with is defense, the ability to restrict this Raiders offense, because we all thought they would at least put 30, 40 points on the Raiders, and it didn't transpire that way. If it
mm,
was Josh McDaniels, they probably would have.
yep. Absolutely. You know, sort of going back to my other point, I think the way things are going, because it's always interesting how the league changes. Quarterbacks are more mobile now than ever. You need to stay upright, but when you do that, you potentially subject your quarterback to an injury. This is happening more and more, and a lot of teams are being derailed. Whereas before, the backup quarterback was an afterthought. You could almost take anyone off the street and just say you're the backup guy. You're cheap. You're essentially playing for free. We don't expect you to play. I think that's changing now. All right, because these QBs are more mobile, offenses are designed around that, and when you have your QB coming out of the pocket, you run the risk of injury, right? So I think teams now have to understand that, and we're seeing this with Josh Dobbs, with everything that's happened, like in Cleveland, etc. You need your second guy has to be competent. All right,
Mm-hmm.
he needs to be able to keep the team afloat, keep the team going. I'm not saying he's got to win out. All he's got to do is be able to protect the football and play good team football and allow the offense and the defense to work and stay on schedule. Or else your main guy gets injured, your season's over. Like there's no hope. You know, Aiden O'Connell, he was a backup, but you can see he's serviceable. He's keeping this team afloat. Granted, 3 interceptions, not good, but he did have the touchdown and he kept his team in the game. You know, that's what you
Mm-hmm.
want from your backup. You want someone that's going to be able to hold things together. And this is testimony to what's happening with the Raiders. I think we've been seeing online a lot of people have been campaigning for them to hurry up and announce him as the new head coach for that team. I think what's his name? His mate, Keyshawn Johnson. He's been campaigning like say just hire him now. Like he's trying to get his mate a job. 100%. You know, but that's always good to see. But yeah, no, it was a good game. You know, and it bodes well for the futures. For the future of the Raiders if they go with Antonio Pierce. Now, the only person I would consider above Antonio Pierce is if that Harbaugh name comes through. That is it.
Harbaugh's not going to the Raiders.
Yeah. But all I'm saying is that is the only person.
I mean, I mean,
And
I,
you
I mean, I
know,
mean, I mean,
and that's a
I mean,
typical.
I get it, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing, though.
Yeah.
I feel like they need to go with Antonio Pierce because it also boosts the minority head coach
Yep.
hires
Yep.
situation, because he's truly worked with the team. And if the Raiders, say they finish with a winning record and that since Antonio Pierce took over, or they're top 500, just give him the opportunity and see what he can do. Right or wrong, because they did Rich Bisaccia dirty when they passed him over to give the head coach to McDaniels, and he actually stabilized the team. And he should have been given an opportunity for him to prove as a full-time head coach, which he didn't do. So I think this would be a good opportunity to give the chance to Antonio Pierce. Harbaugh, we have a team that he can go to. The callback is currently going through it.
Okay. Who's the team?
LA Chargers. That's the team Harbaugh's going to.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, I can see that. Yeah. I mean, they're gonna make
And
a push
Harbaugh,
anyway.
for the if LA are able to get Harbaugh right, I
Ooh.
can honestly see the Chargers probably winning the division ahead of the Chiefs
Yeah.
because Harbaugh is a very good coach,
Yeah.
and when he comes in, he's able to challenge whoever owns the division.
Yeah. Yeah, and he builds that team right. They'll turn into a tough nosed football team, and it's gonna be
Mm.
like it'll be awesome to see that. Like if he was to be anointed there, because like I said, you give him 3 seasons, that team is in the playoffs and going deep every year. Like he's that kind of coach. Right. So moving on. Next game we're gonna have a look at over here. Um, let's look at what we saw. I actually want to go through Texans Cardinals. Not for your Cardinals though, although Kyler did play well. He had the INT actually, but what I like to see from him is that him on the ground, 51 yards, and the TD shows that he has confidence in himself coming off the injury. This is another week where we're
Mm-hmm.
seeing that confidence, which is rare. Usually, when you sort of come off like a lower body injury, you're a bit tentative, especially at QB. We've seen none of that from Kyler. So we know he's confident in his body. He's had the right time scale, and he's healthy. So this is something like you can hang your hat on. It's good to see him
Oh yeah,
play. I think he's
absolutely.
definitely there next year. I don't think all this like this is his last season. That's not going to happen. I think you guys understand the type of talent you have in Kyler Murray, and now it's a case of just building a team around that.
Yeah, I mean that's true because for me the little thing I would say is that against Houston and he owned up to it in a press conference, which is a new side of Kyler that a lot of Cardinal fans are appreciating, taking accountability. And he took accountability for the loss. That this is all me. I'm the reason why we didn't win this game because in the second half we shut down the Texans, had opportunities to win the game, but it's just that he was very rusty in the second half in terms of some of the throws that he made. And he underthrew Hollywood Brown, and I'm sure they'll work on it in practice, and get better as the season draws to a close. But I think coming back from injury, his arm is not quite there yet, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
His legs is fully recovered, but it's his arm. And everybody that sits there and they're like, "Oh, Arizona have a discussion to let's say if we end up with the second overall pick and we don't win another game for the rest of the season, they're gonna go and think about it and say, should we take a call back from the draft? Well, if you take a call back from the draft, which most likely will be Drake May, because I think Caleb Williams is going number one overall. If you take a quarterback, like Drake May, he's coming into a losing situation because the roster is absolutely shit. It's crap. We need to build a good foundation. Like a lot of rookie quarterbacks that succeed goes to as number one overall pick have uniquely talented skills.
Yeah.
If you don't have that, you easily flop it. Like Kyler, his mobility and his ability to will
Improvise.
teams to wins and
Yeah.
improvise is a key factor as to why we got better once we drafted number one overall. Peyton Manning, his ability to study and prepare
Mm.
and be very sharp with his brain and play using his mind so more so than anything was a big factor. A lot of number one overall callbacks flop though. That's one thing, and a lot of people don't consider in the NFL.
More flop than actually succeed. And yeah, no, you're right. Drake May is one of those traps, Pete. I'm telling you, he's one of those traps. People are trying to force it. People are trying to force it. And I always look at QBs. I don't look at them as like this is this draft class only. I always compare like the past 5 years.
True.
That's how I always look at it. I'm comparing them not necessarily just to their draft class, but the guys who have come before them. I'll look back and be like, cool, is he better than Sam Darnold? Oh, Coming out, no. I think if Sam Darnold and him were in the same draft, people might take Sam Darnold first. Then you're starting to see things the way I see it. Right now, he's not as good as Kyler. He's not even close. Kyler's a better QB now, and he's a better prospect coming out. So for me, outside of the height thing, it's a no-brainer. So that's how I always look at QBs in terms of evaluating them in the draft. But yeah, yeah, no, this was a cool game to see. CJ Stroud again. He went to
He
work.
played very well.
He played well in the
Second half,
second
second
half.
half, our defense got him down.
Yeah. I think he learned now. You know, like welcome to the NFL. This was his game, and now he's realizing that. Hopefully, he learns from this. But he had a really good game, and I want to say Tank
Mm,
Dell. I think he's my ball of the week because this guy, undersized,
mm.
he could be that new age Antonio Brown. I think him and Zay Flowers kind of remind me of a young Antonio Brown, but a little bit better. So I think one of those guys is going to become prolific. It's either going to be Tank or it's going to be Zay Flowers. One of them is going to become prolific. And Tank Dell's one of those guys, week in and week out. This is the guy CJ Stroud vouched for and asked the Texans to draft this guy. You know, they asked him, and they didn't go to the same college. Tank Dell went to Houston. You know, so this was like a completely different guy, but they trained together. He saw what this guy can do, and he's showing again 149 yards, a TD, and off 8 receptions, which tells me that he's explosive. You know, they've got a good future heading forward, 100%.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, all right. So let's move it on. We're looking at the next game. Um, did we go over Buffalo Bills and the Jets? You know, I'm only talking about this. I mean, we kind of went over it a little bit with Zach Wilson. I don't think there's much to say with this game. The Jets were completely outclassed. Um, 81 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 7 for 15 from Zach Wilson, 23 yards on the ground from Bryce Hall. Your leading receiver is a running back with 50 yards and a touchdown. Abysmal performance all the way around. The Bills, I think they're hooting and hollering off this win, but let's be real, like they were expected to win. You know, this was going to be business as usual. Josh Allen, uh, I can't really count this win as like him being cured. I think this is just a bad Jets team right now, offensively, and it gave them a comfortable win. You know, they were
Well,
so I don't want to get too excited for them.
well, we'll see. If they can pick up, let's say 2, 3 wins in a row,
Mm.
and be back in the hunt. I think that's what we're looking at here. Great performance from the Bills. They did what they needed to do to win. So now let's see if they can start piling up some wins because that's what it's gonna take for them to at least get a wild card spot.
Yeah. All right. Next game we're looking at Vikings versus the Broncos. The Joshua
I don't think there's
Dobbs.
a lot to discuss here.
Yeah.
Josh Dobbs tried to do his thing. I get it. But the bigger question is that is Russell Wilson being fixed though? I think he's on the road to being recovery and getting back to his best, but I don't think it's quite there yet.
Yep. No, I agree. I think he's improved a lot. Or he's sort of getting back to his not his old form, but he's getting back to what they kind of thought they were gonna get when they brought him in, and that's testimony to the coach that they have over there with Sean Payton. This is what you brought him to do. This was his number one goal. It was fix Russell Wilson. And we've seen
But I
that
think
he's addressed
I
that.
like the approach that Sean Payton is taking, which is earlier in the season it wasn't happening. So Sean was like, you know what? Let's run the football, let's manage games, and let's try and pick up wins by playing ball control offense. Let me start you off in managing games, being a bit of a game manager, right?
Mm,
And then as time goes on, we start increasing it bit by putting it in your hands.
mm,
And I think that's the best way. When you have a quarterback that is in a bit of a rut, that's the best way to build his confidence back up. Do a little bit, do a little bit, do a little bit until we get to a point whereby I feel like I can trust you to just go off and be Drew Brees, if that makes sense.
yep.
So I like what they're doing. Let's shift to the Thanksgiving games coming up on Thursday.
Yep. Let me just get that up on screen. Okay. All right. So Thanksgiving, means we've got like a few games all happening at the same time. Three games, I believe. Is that correct? Well, if you count the Friday
Yeah, on
early
Thursday.
morning, and there's an early morning one for us in the
What
UK.
for us, but
Yeah, but for them it's all happening. So we've got Lions Packers, Cowboys Commanders, and Seahawks 49ers. Okay.
yep.
So, Lions Packers, this should be a one-sided affair, you know?
Mhm.
I mean, if Jared Goff chooses not to throw three interceptions again, they should have this game in the bag. Like, this should be a comfortable win for them. They've got all the tools on offense and they've got a hard-nosed defense. Packers don't seem to be going anywhere, and if they don't have Aaron Jones there to run the ball, then I think their offense is basically bleeding out. Like, they haven't really got a lot of pieces. That should be a comfortable win for the Lions. Maybe not high scoring, but definitely comfortable.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Lions should win this one pretty easily.
Mm,
But Jared Goff, no more three INT games. Even if it does, the Lions will still find a way to win the game.
mm.
But if it does, we're buying his kneecap.
Yeah,
We're not here to, be throwing INTs. If you throw an INT, we're gonna buy a kneecap, live in Wisconsin, you find your way back to Detroit.
yeah,
So Goff, play better, have a nice controlled games, and the Lions get a W. Um, you know, and they're actually playing in Detroit, so um, you know that kind of thing.
yeah,
Although one funny thing I saw over the weekend, is a little bit off topic, is um one of the Cardinals fans tweeted, because our game against Houston, Marco Wilson was getting picked on a lot by CJ Stroud,
yeah,
and he was giving up yards. And one of them was like, I know the Cardinals don't charge players for meals anymore, but he needs to be what you call it, uh pay for his dinner. It needs to be revoked for him. Like everybody else get free dinner. Whenever you come to the facility, you're getting charged for your food,
you
mate,
better
because you
be
can't even
charged.
give up yards and
Yeah,
touchdowns.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
I
that's
hope
that's
Tyler
true.
did the Michael Jordan thing and said that you're not having dinner on this flight back home.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. Holding him accountable, 100%. All right. Next game we've got,
Commanders Cowboys.
yeah, Commanders Cowboys. So this is one of those games where the Commanders obviously came off a bad loss against the Giants, who
Yeah.
aren't like a good team. But the Commanders are a team right now where they might drop a game like that and then they'll turn around and beat a contender. You know,
Yeah,
they're
there
they're an
is. I
interesting team.
think I think they're a team that plays down to their opponent. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
It's like when they play bad teams, they are bad. When they play the top uh big teams, they raise their level of play. And I think Ron Rivera is kind of like a fired coach walking.
yep,
I don't see a way unless they have a dramatic. There's 6 games left to the end of the season. Unless they win all 6 games, and which gives them a 10-7 record, which I don't think is gonna happen. But stranger things have happened in the NFL, so it could happen. But I think it's very very unlikely. Um, and they're heading for a losing season, which means because nobody expected them to lose to the Giants. That
nah,
was a big
no one
shocker.
expected that.
This weekend somehow threw 3 INTs in the game.
So
He
maybe
had a
they'll be
very bad
angry.
game
Maybe they'll
in
be
this game.
angry
So
and they'd pull
so
one off against Dallas.
so my question to you
Yeah.
is you that no Eagles bias. Okay, let's be objective. Okay, let's have objectivity here. I know
Yeah.
the Eagle bias is gonna come out, but let's be objective. At the beginning of the season, you said somehow it's your dark horse quarterback to watch. Do you feel that now, or is your take slightly changed on how Sam Howell has played this
Yeah,
season?
I think I kind of overestimated him a little bit. Don't get me wrong, he's had his moments where he's played
Hmm.
very well and he's shown that you can build. Remember, he's a rookie quarterback, all right? He's a rookie quarterback
Essentially,
and he wasn't like a highly touted guy out. I think he was picked in the later rounds as
was picked in
well.
the 5th round.
Yeah, so he's basically going to be playing for cheap on this team. So I think they keep him regardless and they try and develop because he's had his moments where he's put up a lot of numbers and he's been accurate. He's marched it up and
Hmm.
down the field on several teams, several defenses. So it's obvious he can play and the team understands that. There's no politics with this team where they kind of feel as though he's not the guy heading forward. Defense knows that, offense knows that. No, they all rally around Sam Howell and are like he's the guy because they've seen him in practice. They know he can play. So it's a case of building, and this is Eric Bieniemy's test. Like I think he might be the head coach heading forward potentially. Remember the Commanders isn't one sole owner; it's a group of owners that work together.
Hmm.
And you obviously got Magic Johnson over there as well. So he's going to be giving his influence too. So it'll be interesting to see. Um, but but yeah, no, I think I overestimated him a little bit. But it's good to see that he is going to develop and carrying forward. Now that being said, I would love for the Commanders to beat Dallas, but I think Dallas right now have gotten over the hump. Okay, I think they're a dangerous team. It's hard for me to admit this. It's hard for me to admit this, but I think they're a dangerous team because they've been playing up to standard now. Like as far as them passing the ball, Dak's been playing mistake-free football. He's been playing fairly well. CD Lamb is going off. And he's playing like one of the best receivers in that division. Obviously, we still have
Hmm.
AJ Brown, but CD Lamb is playing extremely well. But my only concern with that team is how can the defense hold up? You know, they're still missing playmakers. You know, and their defense will sometimes disappear in a game. But if Dak plays soundly, they're a very dangerous team and hard to beat. I don't see how the Commanders can win this game. I would love for them to win because then it will knock the Cowboys down a peg again and make it harder for them to try and sneak in on the tail end. But yeah, no, I think Dallas are probably going to take this one.
Okay,
Yep. And then
I agree too.
yeah. The third game we've got here is Seahawks versus the 49ers. All right. So what are your picks for this one, Dill? Pete.
49ers should win this game. It's a very interesting game though because the Seahawks are 6-4, right?
Mm.
And last week the Seahawks they lost to the Rams because their kicker missed a field goal.
Yep.
Otherwise they would have won. And then it would have set up a very interesting matchup because the 49ers are 7-3 and the Seahawks should have been 7-3, but now they're actually 6-4. So if Seahawks wins this game, they tie the 49ers for the division lead. So I believe the 49ers have more firepower. They are more well coordinated offense and defensive with the addition of Chase Young to their defense could potentially tip this game in their favor for the 49ers to win. But I'll be surprised if the Seahawks, because they're playing at the Seahawks Stadium, the 12th man will be there, it'll be loud, it'll be rowdy. And I'll be surprised if the Seahawks pull off the upset. But I'm still going to go with the 49ers. I believe they have the momentum and I believe they'll go there and give the Seahawks their fifth defeat of the season, taking their record to 8-3. But if the 49ers were to lose, that'll be very interesting. So I'll say 49ers, but if Seahawks, I would like to see the Seahawks win to keep it interesting in the division.
Yeah, same. I agree. I think 49ers most likely. I think they're another team that's sort of gone over a hump. They've had like a few losses last couple of weeks, but I think they've exercised those demons. The Seahawks will give them a good fight. Like I said, this is like a physical game because say what you want about the scoreline, both defenses can hit and they can play hard. So it's definitely going to be like a
Mm-hmm.
physical game. It's probably not going to be that high scoring, but we shall see. But yeah, the 49ers, I agree, should come out of there with a win. Just sort of looking over some of the other games the coming week in terms of interesting ones. See, the Jets Dolphins would have been like a bit of an interesting one, but it's not anymore. I don't think there's anything there, anything there really. Um, what
Check
have
the
we
chat.
got? Bengals Steelers. Oh, chat
Mm,
on Discord.
mm.
Oh, I cannot see. Let me
Okay, that's
see.
fine. I was thinking, let's do the Bills Eagles because that's
Okay,
the
yep,
that's a top one.
yep.
Um, post the Thanksgiving games on Thursday.
Hmm.
Um, post the Thanksgiving game on Thursday. I mean, how do you feel about that one? It's in Philly, by the way.
Yeah. Um, I'm confident about this one, but that's only because how our teams kind of played down the stretch in that tight games. If they are close, we find a way to win. Although granted, with a little bit of luck, I don't think the Bills have been consistent enough this season. They haven't been in these types of games. It's been very much a case of they're expecting to go in and get a win, perform well, and just push ahead, right? And they've underperformed. So
Mm.
if they would have been more consistent throughout the season, then I think this would be like a fairly. I mean, it's going to be a hard game anyway, but it's at Philly, so that's going to be in our favor. Um, like I said, I'm never gonna say never. The Bills might come in here and absolutely have our number, you know. But I'm picking my Eagles to win. I just don't think the Buffalo Bills have been consistent enough throughout the season. So yeah.
Okay. I mean, my take is it's an interesting matchup. And I'm gonna your Eagles are 9-1, best record in the NFL by 2-3 games, I think, at the moment at this
Hmm.
stage. Um, so I know you're confident. I'm gonna go with the Bills in
Okay.
because I just want things to be spicy.
Yeah.
I think they need this win more than you guys do. I think even if you guys lose to the Bills, your Eagles will be okay. So I hope Josh Allen can put the team on his back. Um, and they find a way to win this game. Although your defensive line will make it very difficult, but I think Allen will earn some money, or will earn his money
Mm.
on Sunday against your Eagles.
Okay. Yeah. Fair enough. Split down the middle. All right. We're looking at two more games, and we've got the Broncos versus the Browns. All right.
Mhm.
So you pitched this one as like an interesting game. So I'm saying what you seeing here. You want to see how the Browns are able to play without Deshaun.
Yep.
Yep.
I mean, I'm trying to see how this game's gonna be like because the Broncos have gained some momentum, right? They're 5-5.
Yep.
At 5-5, it goes either way. Either you're tanking or you're trying to make moves happen. And it looks like they're trying to make moves happen. If they beat the Browns, they go to 6-5. Browns drop to 7-4. It boosts the Broncos' chances of carrying on the momentum to try and target a wild card spot um in the upcoming NFL playoffs. So it's an interesting team between two teams that are a bit of a crossroads
Mm.
in terms of like the Browns certainly has a much better record at 7-3. The Broncos are 5-5. So it's kind of like what gives here. And who needs to win because these are two teams that are chasing playoffs, but who actually wins to get to boost your chances of getting a playoff spot come the end of the season.
Okay, yeah, yeah, no, I agree. Will be really interesting to see. Like I said, if they're able to sort of pull this win off, and then Sean Payton can hang his hat because, like I said, he's not looking to tank right now. He's got a QB in Russell Wilson, so what he's looking to do now is see what this team can do. Because he's probably gonna sort of do a lot of trimming and chopping next year. But he's seeing who can play and who's ready to stay. One thing I will say is their defense has improved a lot. And a lot of people were
Mm-hmm.
calling for Vance Joseph to basically be gone. So I reckon something happened. Something happened, and
Look,
here we go.
listen.
Yeah,
All I'm gonna say here is that
don't bring him
okay.
back anyway.
Listen, you guys be Van Joseph, yeah,
Yeah.
will hurt you when you need it the most. You just wait. Is brewing like okay? The last 3 weeks or last 4 weeks, the defense have played extremely well to help the Broncos. But I'm telling you, a time will come where Vance Joseph will be Vance Joseph again. Where
Very
where
jealous.
where 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 where, where Joseph will be him again. Because the thing is, I'm looking at the remaining games on the schedule for the Broncos
Yep.
at the moment. After the Browns, they've got the Texans, Chargers, Lions, Patriots, Chargers, Raiders. So their schedule seems a bit favorable right now for them. So hey, we'll see how it goes.
Okay. Right. And then the last game we're looking at here is Chiefs Raiders. All right. This is a doozy
Mm,
because, like I said, if the Raiders, depending on how they perform in this game, this could be the decider for them. You know, because like I said, Davis as an owner is one of those guys that leans on these like marquee performances. You know, so if they were
mhm,
to pull off a win here, I think it'll very strongly sway his decision because he's always about because you know how these owners are. Oh, Patrick Mahomes, he's really good. He's that's a really good team. If you can beat him, you know, you're my guy. You know, he's that kind of person where he'll look at it in black and white like this. So this is a big game. And I think Antonio Pierce knows this as well. So he's going to be coaching He is lights off right now. He's going to make sure that the team is prepared. He's going to play the hardest they've ever played all season. The Chiefs right now, though, like I said, man, they're not firing on all cylinders. They've been kind of like exposed a little bit in that they haven't got their number two or three option. So the tape is out there. Antonio Pierce is a defensive guy. So you know what that means. He's studying up on this game and he's going to make sure he's got this on the board and be like, this is the game where I become a head coach. He's doing everything in his power to
You
make
are
sure he wins this
absolutely
game.
right.
And I'm gonna be bold here and I'm gonna go with the Raiders to win this game. The Raiders are gonna go in, defensive minded head coach. They're studying the tape on what happened against my Eagles. They're understanding what they need to do to remove Kelsey, and they're forcing these body catchers to try to try and win the game. And that's
Hey,
not gonna happen.
you're a better man than me because I'm gonna still stick with the Chiefs
Okay,
because hey, I mean it'll be a great storyline for the NFL if they were to pull it off. But I doubt
you doubt it,
yeah, I sincerely doubt it because
Pat.
even though the game is at Las Vegas,
Mm,
in a Raiders home stadium, I still just feel the Chiefs will find a way.
mm.
Um,
This is where like experience gets you that win. I think that's what you're saying. Like the Chiefs have been in tight games like this. They're gonna stay calm. Aiden O'Connell hasn't been in this kind of pressure cooker win or lose scenario. So I think that's gonna so he's mentally is he gonna be ready for this game? One thing I do know though, like I said, the Raiders defense is ready to play this game. Because I know Antonio Pierce is gonna be like, look, offense, you go do your thing, yeah, whatever. Defense though, we're winning defense. We may lose this game, but they're gonna know they played our defense. You know what I mean? So this is
yeah,
gonna be an interesting
absolutely,
game. This is gonna be an interesting one.
absolutely.
And yeah, no, I mean that sort of rounds up like our predictions heading into next week as well. Um, just before we close off, it's good for us to do our sort of ball of the week. I haven't really got like a big play of the week off the top of my
Oh, I
head.
got one. It's a bit biased, but I'm gonna go over it anyway.
Yep.
Kyler Murray to Rondell Moore. He dropped in the bucket
Okay.
perfectly.
Yep.
Um, 50-yard touchdown. So I was happy with that. I think the way um they took on this, you know,
Yeah.
I'll go with Kyler. I think that was a beautiful throw.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, play of the week for me actually. Yeah. No, that's given me an idea. It's a defensive play. I'm actually gonna go with. I mean, we thought this guy was gone. We didn't think he was past it. But Jalen Ramsey. Sort of reminding people.
Oh, yes, you got hurt on that, but that was a great pick.
Yeah, Jalen Ramsey sort of turning back the clock, reminding people, that he's still that guy. Like he can still perform. With two interceptions in a game, which is hard to get. You know. That being said, like I said, he's one of those guys that's always relied on his physicality, which means the older you get, the less it's going to be there for you, and he's starting to realize that's gone, which is why he's probably faded. But this was like a good I'm still here, guys. At one point I was viewed as the top. It was me as one or two in terms of the number one corner in the league. So this is one of those moments like, oh yeah, he's with Miami now, but he can still be that guy. So yeah, no, that was a good play. What's your ball of the week individual player if you have one?
Brock Purdy, San Francisco 49ers,
Okay.
had
Yep.
had an incredible game, with a perfect quarterback rating.
Yep.
So shout out to Mr. Irrelevant for doing it this week. No
Yep.
INTs as well.
No INTs. I'm actually gonna go with Tank Dell from Houston Texans. That's back to back. I think last week it was CJ Stroud. Tank Dell
Mhm.
continues to build up a resume. 8 receptions, 149 yards as a rookie, and a TD as well. So he could hit his head on the goalposts. Explosive on the plays. He just continues to impress week in and week out. Keep doing your thing, Tank. Keep doing your thing.
Indeed.
100%. So yeah, and with that, we're gonna sort of wind it down. We'll see if we can get this posted up in the next couple of days. Thanks for tuning in. It's gonna be us again next week as well. Same time, same place. It's still gonna be the two of us. We're gonna work our way through. But yeah, hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please give us like a like and a follow. We'll keep on keeping the social media ticking throughout the rest of the week. Aside from that, it's over and out from me and from P Dubs. Yep.